I'll move the item for purposes of discussion. Motion and a second. Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, this is for the property at Stone and Pennington. It's a 25-year lease to the University of Arizona, and it's for $100 per year for this facility. The taxpayers just invested almost $1 million, $930,000 in the facade of this building. And Mr. Huckleberry's June 2nd, 2014 memo states, given the increasing property values in downtown area, it is appropriate we now complete the facade improvements of this county-owned structure that were budgeted in the funding for the Downtown Public Service Center. I did note that in the 2004 bonds, there was an $800,000 item for the facade, and apparently the additional $130K came out of the funds for the Downtown Public Service Center, known as the courthouse. But the other statement he made in there is these facade improvements will complete historic renovation of this building and greatly improve its market value if the county determines it is appropriate to sell. And in this agreement is an option for the University of Arizona to purchase this facility and be credited for any costs that they have incurred up to $100,000. And one of the items in this agenda item is that they have already invested approximately $1 million in capital improvements to the buildings. I haven't really seen any documentation. I mean, a phase one renovation costs were $500,000 for first floor renovations to make classrooms because they're teaching classes here. And then there were some other renovations for conference rooms, space, etc. I would expect if they're getting this facility from Pima County, a prime area in downtown Tucson, for $100 a year, that they would in fact be required to make their own improvements. They have been paying their utilities, which is a good thing. But also I think, I don't know why we would give them this option to purchase this facility and give them credit for these improvements, because they were for their benefit, not for ours. They were creating classroom space, etc. And again, the University of Arizona, you know, we are giving them, I think it's $1 a year for courtroom space. We're giving them $15 million a year with a lease for the hospital. And they've got 2 courtrooms in the new courthouse. And I understand some administrative space, correct me if I'm wrong. And, you know, on, and we can't afford to continue doing this. We need to, it gets right back to the same issue with the horse racing. We're giving out our facilities for other people to utilize, make money off. They're getting revenue from their students, etc. And we're not getting the return based on, you know, we're investing in these properties on behalf of the taxpayers, and we're not getting the return on these properties. And this is just, you know, after we invest $1 million in the facade, I think that we should be looking at a market value. And I would like to know, what is the market value rate for property in this area per square foot? And I don't even get the total square footage. I know it's 2 stories plus a basement that's being added. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Huckleberry to respond first.
Yeah, go ahead and let Chuck respond.
Or Ms. Lesher.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a
Who are you pointing at?
extenuation
Number, okay.
of a lease that we have with the university, short-term lease initially, to determine their utilization and whether or not they would desire a long-term presence in the downtown for their teaching programs, primarily in the landscape architecture and architectural college, as well as social and behavioral sciences college. They have determined that they would now like to have a permanent, or what we would call a long-term lease, the 25-year period, so that they can make additional capital investments in the facility over time. And as they then determine whether or not they want to expand their footprint in downtown, they can either purchase the building from us, or they can ultimately move out. In any event, with regard to the facade improvement, we have a conservation easement that will protect the facade investments, and we've made the facility both now and into the future, and so that is not an issue, even if the property would change hands and be acquired by the city of Tucson. This agreement basically takes the place of an existing lease. In that existing lease, we're actually paying utilities and other costs. This will save us about $600,000 by having the university assume those costs in the future. In addition, in the sale, if in fact they exercise the option to purchase, it has to be done at that time at market value, which will then be appraisals, but that presumes that sometime during the 25-year period, they will exercise that option. We need to add one additional sentence into the lease, and that's been discussed with our legal counsel, and I believe theirs. It says that if in fact they exercise that option to purchase, the option to purchase must be done obviously at fair market value determined by appraisals of the parties, but it also then has to actually be done by a unanimous vote of the board. And if it's not unanimous vote of the board at the time of the exercising the option, then it goes to public auction.
If I remember correctly,
Yes, Supervisor Lease.
it is a requirement to have unanimous vote of the board to donate a piece of property or sell it below market rate to a nonprofit in the state of Arizona, period. So that's something that we would have to abide by anyways. But Chuck's amendment is probably a good one. I'm sorry, working with the university to add students into the downtown area is a good concept, and there's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, it is a smart and efficient use of that property. And in fact, at a time when university funding, particularly here in the state of Arizona, is under attack constantly from the state legislature again, I think this is a smart investment. I'll stand up for the University of Arizona. I'll stand up for the students that are there. Not just because my daughter is a student there, but because it has provided for all of us over the past 150 years almost at this point. And, well, less than 150, excuse me, a little over 100. But I would also add that this is a land-grant university. And part of the mandate behind a land-grant university is to provide an education at the most affordable available to students from the state of Arizona. I don't think we're doing a very good job of that right now. And frankly, I think if this adds to that situation and helps them, and helps economic development in downtown, then Pima County is doing the exact thing that it should be doing. I'm going to go ahead and move the item with the addition of Chuck's additional sentence that we've talked about in his last comment. If we were to sell this property, and then Supervisor Carroll...
I think I made a motion for purposes of discussion to approve the item, so we don't need a second motion. But I'm trying to remember who seconded it. Was it Supervisor Valdez, or was it you? It was Supervisor Valdez.
Okay, I apologize then.
We don't need a motion, so there's one on the floor.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Then I'd ask for a friendly amendment to add Chuck's comment into it.
Right.
That's fine.
And you're all acceptable to that? Thank you.
There's a
Madam
motion on
Chair.
the floor. Supervisor Carroll.
I would just like to say, I believe it's standard to allow a tenant to apply the portion of their improvements, since they're standard improvements and acceptable as second-generation space probably for anyone else that may be coming along and would like to use that building. I've seen those applied to purchase prices in the past. Are they going to be depreciated before that? They would be applied in any way to a sale price? And if that would be included, I would think that's as standard as it gets in the industry.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Carroll, the depreciation is an accelerated depreciation of 5 years, so 25% per year for anything that they make. My guess is it's not going to be much, if anything.
Thank you very much. I've seen the interior of the building and I appreciate the work that the university has done. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further comments? Any objections? One.
Madam Chair, I object.
One objection from Supervisor Miller. Any further objections? If not, motion carries. Moving on.